أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. We're going to read chapter 39 tonight, and going to finish it tonight, inshallah. So we're going to read from 38 to the end, which is 75. Please.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. And if you ask them who created the vacua and matter, they would say God. Say, are you mindful of what you are calling besides God? If God wills an adversity for me, who can relieve his adversity? And if he wills mercy for me, who can withhold his mercy? Say, God is sufficient for me. In him the truster shall trust. Say, O my people, continue what you are doing, and so will I. Surely do what I am doing. You will soon find out who has deserved the humiliating suffering and has deserved the eternal torment. We have certainly revealed the scripture to you for the people truthfully. Therefore, whoever is guided benefits his soul, and whoever goes astray does it to his own detriment, and you are not their advocate. God terminates souls at the time of death, and one does not die during sleep, except the one whose death is preordained, and he allows others to live for a specific interim. Indeed, in this there are signs for people who think. Have they assumed intercessors besides God? Say, what if they did not possess anything and could not think? Say, all intercessions belong to God. To him belongs the kingship of the vacua and matter, and to him you will be returned. And when God alone is mentioned, the hearts of those who do not believe in the hereafter sicken, but when others are mentioned besides him, they rejoice. Say, O God, initiator of the vacua and matter, knower of all secrets and declarations, you will judge amongst your servants regarding all their disputes. As for the unjust, even if they ransom twice everything on the land, they will not be able to avoid the terrible suffering on the day of resurrection. They will be shown by God what they never fathomed, and the evil of their earnings will become obvious to them, and the very thing they used to ridicule will come back to haunt them. Then when adversity touches the human being, he calls upon us. But when we relieve it from him as a blessing from us, he says, I achieved this by my own knowledge. However, it is a test, but most of them do not realize it. Those before them surely uttered the same utterance. However, their earnings never enriched them, and the evil of their earnings caught up with them. And the unjust amongst these groups will soon suffer the evil of their earnings, and they can never escape. Do they not realize that indeed God increases the provision for whomever he wills and withholds it? Surely in this there are signs for the people who have faith. Say to my servants who have exceeded the limits not to despair from God's mercy. Surely God forgives all sins. Indeed, he is the all-forgiving, the all-merciful. And repent to your Lord and make peace with him before the suffering comes your way. Then you cannot be helped. And follow the most beautiful of what is revealed to you from your Lord before the suffering afflicts you suddenly when you least expect it. Or a soul may say, how regrettable that I left God's side and joined the mockers. Or he may say, had God guided me, I would have been with the righteous. Or he may say, when he sees the suffering, if I could only get another chance, then I would join the righteous. Yes, indeed, when my signs came your way, you rejected them and turned arrogant and became unfaithful. And on the day of resurrection, you will see the faces of those who rejected God, covered with darkness. Is Gehenna not a just abode for the arrogant? And God will save the righteous because of their worthy deeds. No evil will ever touch them, nor will they ever grieve. God is the creator of all things, and he is the advocate of all things. To him belong the keys of the vacua and matter. As for those who reject God's signs, they are the real losers. Are you exhorting me to worship other than God, or you ignorant ones? And it has been inspired to you as well as those before you, that if you ever set up a partner for God, all your deeds will be nullified, and you will end up amongst the losers. You shall worship God and be grateful. They never regard God's power as it should be regarded. All matter is within his fist on the day of resurrection, and the vacua are folded within his right hand. Be he glorified far above having partners. And the trumpet sounds whereby everyone in the vacua and matter will fall unconscious, except those whom God wills otherwise. Then the trumpet sounds once more, whereby they all rise up looking. And the land will shine with the light of her Lord, and the book will be opened, and the prophets and the witnesses will be brought forth, and they will be judged equitably without the least injustice. And every soul will be requited for what she did, and he knows exactly what they did. And the unfaithful will be led to Gehenna in throngs. When they reach there, her gates are opened, and her guards will ask them, did you not receive messengers from amongst you who recited to you the signs of your Lord and warned of the meeting of this day? They respond, yes, indeed, but the word of suffering was rightfully stamped upon the unfaithful. They will be told, enter the gates of Gehenna, wherein you will abide eternally. What a miserable abode for the arrogant ones. And those who feared God, they will be led to paradise in throngs. When they reach there, her gates are opened, and her guards will say, peace be upon you, you are cleansed, therefore enter therein and abide forever. And they say, praise God, the one who fulfilled his promise, and made us the inheritors of the land, settling in paradise wherever we wish. Indeed, it is the best recompense for the workers. And you see the angels floating around the throne, glorifying and praising their Lord. And everyone will be judged truthfully, and it will be proclaimed, praise God, Lord of the multiverse.
Okay, mashallah. Very good. Thank you. Okay, very good. Back to the beginning where we started from. So are there any questions, comments, any observations, any discussions? Anything, any comments? Any questions?
Assalamu alaikum, brother.
Salam, Mahmoud. Yes, go ahead, please.
Yeah, 45.
Yes, thank you. Yeah.
That when God alone.
Yeah.
And we can see the problem with mankind and James.
Yeah.
The problem is God alone. And that's,
yeah.
people will become very upset.
Yeah.
If you don't mention Jesus or Muhammad or the saints or anyone that they're idolizing. So that it was one of the verses that really Rashad used to put on the cover of his translation. You can
Yes.
see that the first page he put that when God alone is mentioned. And I never, when I was coming to Islam, I know what does it mean? Those who do not believe the hereafter, because as we see in this chapter, we all face God on the hereafter. That's what we are working towards, accepting that day and that He is the Malik Yawmuddin.
Very true. Yep.
So that the problem is God alone. That's what mankind.
That's the problem. Yeah, that's yeah. You press the wrong button when that happens. Yes.
You really press the wrong button.
Yeah. But this is the litmus test actually. This 39:44 is the litmus test here that God is telling us about what happens on the thing, on that moment that somebody is mentioning God alone, and they want something else. They want some other entity mentioned, and then when that entity is mentioned, then they rejoice, they relax, and they'll be happy. And but God is going to judge amongst them. That's what God says in verse 46. He says, "Say, O God, initiator of the vacuum and matter, knower of all secrets and declarations, you will judge amongst your servants regarding all the disputes." So that's going to be up to God in the day of judgment, that when He passes the final judgment, that how wrong these people were. Yeah.
And absolutely, verse 53 supports that. All my servants who exceeded the limit, God forgives all sins. And do not waver of God's mercy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. It's amazing, huh? Yeah. Amazing. Yeah. It's basically good news all around. I mean, if you look at this, this is amazing.
Yeah. God's mercy is open. The door is open.
Yeah.
All we need to do is knock the door.
Exactly, yeah.
And we are not doing that. We're all busy with the worldly distractions of the devil.
Yep.
Salam
alaikum. Salam. Very good. Thank you. Any other comments? Any other observations?
Salam, sir.
Alaikum salam, Barry. Yes.
I think it's verse 58.
Yes. Yes.
The person, the entity or whatever that is talking in 58 is the soul, is it not?
Let's see. It says. Let's see.
Started just a little earlier.
Or he may say when he sees the suffering. Yeah. Yes. If I could get another chance. That's right. Yeah. And then he says, yes, indeed. When my signs came your way, you rejected them and turned arrogant and became unfaithful. Yeah. So this is the.
Well, I was wondering why you used in 58 the pronoun he instead of she.
Yeah, it is he actually. Al-Tawliya. Or he may say, let's see. Yeah. Let me think about that a little bit, okay?
All right, thank you.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Okay, anything else?
I'm Dr. Fazely.
Alaikum assalam. Yes, Maryam, go ahead, please.
I wanted just to go back to the verse 45 that Mahmoud just
Yes.
mentioned about
Yes.
about God alone. But
Yes.
what is really striking is the two previous verses where both they address the intercession.
Mm-hmm.
So it looks like human being in general, we don't want to deal with God directly alone. We like to some sort of an intermediate, which is the intercession, and God says about those who in verse 43. So the intercessor, actually all the intercessor beside God, they cannot do anything. They don't own anything, they don't possess anything, or they could even think about a person's situation. So my question, because it has always bothered me in terms of, on one hand, God says all the intercessions belong to God, and I believe one time you mentioned that, because there is another verse, I don't remember the number, in which God says He will not agree with any intercession or accept any intercession with the exception of what He authorizes, something like that, which means there is some sort of an exception. And I remember one time you mentioned that this means, when we were reading that verse, this means that as long as the intercession is in accordance with God's will, which is
Yes.
God's
Yes.
law. But that is where I am a little bit struggling, but maybe you have another explanation, is we know that nothing escapes God. He knows everything. He's omnipotent. He knows the in and out. He knows what we hide and what we think. Why do we still? What is it, this intercession, that He makes an exception on it and He will listen to it if He knows everything? And why, as a believer, we would still need intercession, since God is telling us their intercessors anyway, that includes the prophets, messengers and stuff. They don't know anything. They don't control anything. So why do we still? It bothers me. I don't know why, but when somebody says, "Oh, pray for me, dear for me, this for that," and I am like, why? I don't know that much about a person, but why do I need still to pray and intercede on behalf of that person in front of God when that person can directly address God? And He knows everything, what is hidden and what we utter, what we do. So would you be able to help me balance this thinking about the intercession, why some of it is allowed when God knows everything? Why do we need even intercession?
Yeah, we don't need it. You don't need it. I mean, to me, this whole thing is again, God, He wants to show His tolerance, okay, of people's stupidity. Yeah. And this is amazing. I mean, to me, it's just absolutely amazing that God is so tolerant that's really beyond our imagination. He says, okay, if you want to do this silly thing, I'll let you do it. Go ahead and do it. Okay? And then He gives permission. Okay, go ahead and do that. But then again, that person utters about somebody else has to be the absolute truth. Otherwise, has no place to go. That's why it says according to His will. Okay? But my thing goes that in my situation, it's all irrelevant because I want to put my trust in God. And it doesn't matter. The rest of it really doesn't matter. But to me, all of these verses of God is talking about these things is that He wants to show His tolerance. Okay? I mean, if you look at this thing, how nice he was with Abraham. Refrain from this, okay? He was interceding on the peoples of Lot's behalf. He was bargaining with God. And, and God was so tolerant with this man. And he knew that he had a good heart and everything. So he gave him some leeway, if you will, to say what he had to say. It's absolutely mind-boggling, okay? Yeah. I mean, I cannot fathom it, okay?
Yeah,
it shows his absolute
that
mercy.
Really answer my question. Yeah, the tolerance is true, because there are other verses in on the day of resurrection about the criminals. He still gives them basically an opportunity to talk.
Everything, yeah. Okay, everything.
You're right.
Yeah,
You're right. A good, very strong point. Thank you so much, Dr. Fazely. I did not think about it.
Sure. But, as I said, as far as, you and I and the rest of the people who have absolute trust in God, this whole thing is irrelevant. We don't have to worry about it, okay? But my point is that, even with these kind of, silly things that people think of, okay? Because we read it in this chapter, okay? If you go back to verse 3 of this chapter when we read it, okay. Verse 3, it says that absolute religion shall be purely devoted to God.
Right.
As for those who take lords beside him, they say, we only worship them in order to get us closer to God.
Right.
Okay? To get closer to God. They are in good positions. That's what they're thinking, you see. Mm-hmm. Indeed, God will judge amongst them regarding the disputes. Surely God does not guide those who are liars, unfaithful.
Yeah.
Okay? So that's how they think people are thinking of intercession and things. Well, these guys have high position in God's whatever, okay? And so they're going to stand by me and be my advocate.
Okay? Right.
But the point is that that's not going to, remember that in the case of Abraham, finally God told him, he said, refrain from this.
Correct.
Okay? He'll stop this, okay, because,
yeah. Human being, you hit the point, thank you very much, Dr. Fazely.
You're welcome. Okay.
Good. Thank you.
Walaikum assalam. Yes. Yes, go ahead.
For real. You don't mind if I...
No, go ahead. It's okay, Dowd. It's fine.
All right. Dr. Fazely, I think I had talked about this before, in that God doesn't contradict himself. He says there's no intercession. And when he says in accordance with his will, we have to look at intercession from a different perspective. And if we're all going to be judicated on that day. And so, when we look at to intercede, it's also in the court, because the day of judgment is like a court. And so, mediation is a legal term for intercede. And they're going to ask the girl, why was she buried on the day of what crime did she commit? And he's going to ask Jesus, did you tell the people to worship you and your mother? So these are points of interceding. He's going to allow people, like the sister said, to express themselves, not in the way that is defined from a religious perspective of interceding and asking people for forgiveness. No, it's all a part of the adjudication. God's decision, I believe, is already made, but he's going to allow people to speak, and he's going to, allow us when he says, I'm going to show you your records, okay? And you're going to be your own advocate, okay? This is all part of the justification of the judgment. So when we look at intercession, we have to look at it from a jurisprudence point of view. When he says, except in accordance with my will, that's how I looked at it. And when I looked up what those words meant, I actually read in the Quran where you can actually see what God says. He says, I'm going to ask the little girl, why was she killed? What was her crime? You know, they're going to continue. He said, the angel says, we're going to question them authoritatively because we were never absent. Okay? And so he also tells the disbelievers, don't argue in front of me. Okay? So they're going to be arguing back and forth. They're going to blame one another. All of these things are part of interceding, but not in the way that we look at it from a religious point of view. This is more of a jurisprudence point of view, because God can't contradict himself. He's not going to say there's no intercession, but then I'm going to let some people intercede as to think that, well, Muhammad can come because, he's close to me, I'm going to do him a favor and let people come, into paradise. So we know that can't be. So we have to look at it from another perspective. And we can't ignore that other perspective when he says, except in accordance with my will, and it's not a contradiction. So when we read the Quran, throughout the Quran, we're going to see in the judgment different aspects of it. And those aspects are people allowing to intercede. God says, I'm going to call you forth and you're going to bear witness to certain things. Okay? So, but it's not asking for forgiveness. It's what did I see? What did I understand? What did this person say to you? So these are the things that can help us when we read the Quran and we look at intercession, we look at it from a legal perspective. Okay? Those words, what we call synonyms, okay? When we look at the synonym for intercede, we're going to see mediation, okay? We're going to see words like that expresses the same meaning, the same definition, but has different meaning. So I just wanted to share that.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, any other comments? I think Fariel had something to say before you did. Fariel, did you have a question or comment?
Yes, I did. I was just saying I remembered that verse that Miriam mentioned, but what I thought it said was that after God had made his judgment, then you could speak, but then you had a way to say whatever you wanted to. But after, and there is no after God, and anybody that was stupid enough to want to say anything. I remember when you said one day that if you had a chance to intercede for somebody, would you? And you said you wouldn't, and anybody near God wouldn't either. So once he said, that only after I have given my judgment upon this thing, then you may say something. Well, who in the heck would? Only someone in hell even wouldn't say something behind whatever God said. So it's almost as if it's rhetorical, or just to let you know, once God's command is spoken, there's nothing that can be said or done anyway. So that would just leave.
Well, I mean, the entire thing, you see, when we look at the entire creation, that there were a lot of people who were wickedly, insubordinate. Let's put it that way, and that's why we ended up here. God gave us a commandment, and we did not do it. And then, from that picture, that scenario that you look at, God knows exactly who is going to go to hell, who is going to go to heaven. No question about it, because God is not talking about time or anything like that. These are all timeless and dimensional, so we can't even fathom it. But my point is that, so why go through this whole business? Because he wants to show the rest of his creation, okay, that the reason that this guy went to heaven and the reason this guy went to hell was because of this. Look at the way they behaved. Once they were given a chance to redeem themselves, they refused to do it. And they ignored my signs. And they did this, A, B, C, D. Okay? And that's why they went there. So there will not be any question at the end. Okay? Remember, there were questions at the beginning. Are you sure you're going to do this? And God's tolerance, God's love, God's mercy answers those people, answers those entities that are asking those questions of God. But I mean, you're absolutely right. To me, it really doesn't matter because I don't want anybody to be my advocate. Okay? That's what God says, the word wakil. Wakil means lawyer. Literally, it means lawyer. Okay, in Arabic. And I don't want anybody like that. I put my trust in God, and I'm not going to say a word. Okay? And Lord, my judgment regarding my situation belongs to God. And there are so many good news. Look, man, all you have to do is repent to God, and I'm going to change your past. As though you were born again, literally. Okay? So, there's no worry about these things. I don't think it's. But, again, as I said, God is showing His tolerance, has His love, and His immense mercy and grace to us by saying these things. Okay.
I agree. I also just want to say that God made us agents on this planet, and I think it's just as well good enough to pray for someone if they need praying. That doesn't mean that you can change the situation, but you can make a person feel better. Even when it says, "Why should we feed people that God could feed? Why should we do anything?" But we do it for the grace and glory of God. So it doesn't mean that you're interceding, but you're just okay.
Yeah, but Dr. Fazely, isn't it true that man still practice intercession that he has been practicing that since the beginning? I mean, even Jacob's children, they asked him to intercede on their behalf to God, and he promised them that he would. And this is a form of intercession. So we see it throughout the Quran.
But why is it? Yeah, but why is it so important to you? I mean, Abraham made a mistake. That doesn't mean I'm going to go follow Abraham. Okay.
Right.
And the same case. I'm not going to do the same thing that Jacob did. These things are, and if the blind man comes to me, I try not to frown. It doesn't mean that these things were right. My point is that, as far as I'm concerned, I don't care about other people. As far as I'm concerned, I'm going to put my trust in God. And if I do that, then I don't have to worry about anything. It just doesn't matter. The rest of it is irrelevant. Okay? So, as I said, you're talking about education and things like that, and a court system and all kinds of stuff that we have in this world. Okay? But those words have also been said in the Quran in the form of a lawyer. It's literally, the word wakil in Arabic means lawyer. You have an advocate. Okay?
You can see it, yes.
Yeah.
I agree.
And he says you don't need an advocate. God says you do not need an advocate. That's what God says.
Well, I don't disagree. My point was that these are the things that we can see if that people will come across and they will look at, and they will try to understand it. And that for me was something that I wanted to try to understand as well. What does God mean when He said, "Except in accordance with my will"? And that helped me be able to step away from that without having to boggle my mind, so to speak. I mean, the Quran gave me the answer, looking at the different stages of the judgment. That was not to say that it's a big deal unless you're stopped at that and you're still trying to figure that out. So that was one.
Okay, I mean, I'm not arguing with you. I'm just telling you. You see, I'm just telling you the way that I think about this whole thing is that we either trust God or we don't. Okay, if I don't trust God, then I have to worry about who's going to be my witness and this and that, the others. Okay, but the point is that we have to remember that God is the all gracious, the all merciful. Okay, once I see that, who is more gracious and more merciful than God? Nobody. Why should I put my trust in those guys, in my lawyer or this and that, the others, okay? Why should I do that? I'm going to take God as my advocate. That's what I want to do. I'm going to take him as my wakil, not some guy or some person because we have a court system here, okay? And I want some other people to understand and appreciate that. Doesn't matter. My situation is, my position is that I put my trust fully in God, and then the rest of it is irrelevant. It doesn't matter. So I take God as my advocate, and that's what God says. Take me as your advocate, and that's what I'm going to do. And then the rest of it is irrelevant. Doesn't matter.
Mashallah. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam. Yes, go ahead, please.
Who is going ahead? Me?
Yeah. Yes, go ahead. Yes. Shakira, I think you were next, and then there was another person that said Assalamu alaikum, and I don't know who that was. But anyway, you are first, Shakira. You go ahead first because you and Farid came at the same time.
The first thing I want to say is that the verse 39:44 is extremely clear. It tells you, Kullillahi shafatun jami'an. Jami'an basically is telling you all of the intercession, all of it. There's no need to have any discussion about that because God is stating very clearly, and then he's telling that everything belongs to him, and then to him we will be returning. So, and as you said, that there is a reason why he allowed intercession, even though it's not going to work, it's simply because he is kind and loving and good. But don't you think that if we read this one simple verse, we understand that there is really no intercession at all? So we don't need to go behind this anymore because we can learn something else from you.
Let me just make this point, okay? That
okay.
There's a lot of things that a lot of people think, okay? But I cannot be responsible for what they say or what they practice. It really doesn't matter. I have to worry about myself. How do I actually how do I deal with this whole thing for my situation and not anybody else's? That's my point. My point is that I have to put my trust absolutely in God. And I say this so many times, I sound like a broken record. And some people may not even like it, okay? Somebody may send me an email and say, I have all these problems with this problem. I said, put your trust in God. And they may not like it, okay? I don't have a magic wand or something to remove people's problems. I can't do that, okay? That's between that person and God and how that person is dealing with God, okay? And so we just read it. Are we at peace with God or not? That's the question we have to ask ourselves. If we are at peace with God, then we have no problems. If we are not at peace with God, then all kinds of other things are going to sort of, permeate into our daily lives, and we're going to have problems. Okay? So that first thing we have to basically make sure, okay, that we put our absolute trust in the Almighty. And once we do that, then he'll fix it, even if things don't work, okay? You know, sometimes I work on something, some program, something just doesn't work. It's very aggravating, okay? But I know that there is a time and a place for that thing to start working. And that place, if I put my trust in God, that place would be the best time and place for that to happen. No other time. So I would not lose my temper or something like that. Okay? So I'll be at peace with that. And that's what I ask God. Okay? So, you know, the believing Egyptian, to go back to that situation. Okay? Then he says, أُفَوِّضُ أَمْرِي إِلَى اللَّهِ إِنَّ اللَّهَ بَصِيرٌ بِالْعِبَادِ. He knew that 3,700 years ago. Okay? I leave my affairs to God. He is the seer of his servants. Okay? He knew that. Okay?
Yes.
So do we have that kind of mentality or not? Okay? Do we leave all of our affairs to God because he's watching over the servants that he has? Or we have to do our own machinery to do things. Okay? So if we take that one, okay, take that route, that's the route to success. If we put in our own system into this, and then we think about it, and then we think, oh yeah, God does the same thing too. Okay? He doesn't. This shows his mercy, his absolute tolerance. Okay? As I said this, when he talks to Moses, he's chatting with him. Okay? You go and talk to some arrogant people, they don't even look your way. They don't even look at you. They act as though they are autistic or something. Okay? They don't even answer your greeting when you greet them. They're so arrogant. And God, who is the creator of all things, we just read it. Okay? What he does, he's chatting with them. What is that thing you're holding in your right hand, Moses? Oh, Moses. Okay? You mean he doesn't know what it is? Of course he does. He wants to put him at rest. He's chatting with him. Okay? That's how gracious he is. That's how merciful he is. And that's what we have to take from these sessions. Not to worry about what other people do. It doesn't matter. It's irrelevant.
So can I say something now?
Yeah, go ahead.
All that you said is exactly the commandments that God has commanded. He tells you in 22:15 that you should hold on to the rope of God. Period.
Yep.
That one sentence should be enough for us to understand. He's also telling he's your advocate, which is wakil, but he's also telling in the same surah, in 39:46, that he will be your tahkumu baina ibadika. Basically, he's saying he will judge amongst your servants regarding all the disputes. Again and again, repeating the same thing. So what's the point that if you take it and you understand that and move on so you can grow your soul, understanding the Quran better and better by using your faculties and concentrating on this mathematics that we have and moving forward to not even think about intercession anymore, because all that you said, right, the way he is with Moses, the way he is telling us we should be, the way all his attributes, just look at his attributes. Basically, everything has become nothing, right?
Yep. Okay,
so
very
that's what I'm telling. You cannot change anybody, neither can I. No one can. No one can make that person who is becoming sick to be sick. That one who will be questioned on the day of resurrection, it will be.
Right.
The evil is with them. Then they are unappreciative, they are horrible. So we have to just understand all of this and concentrate basically simply on worshiping God and on understanding, trying to understand him the best way that we can. Because, I was so, the verse here, this verse is so amazing. It says that, he says that on that day of resurrection, all matter is within his fist.
Yep.
And the vapor of folded within his right hand. Who is going to understand all of this when right here we see that the vacuum and matter are expanding, and he's holding all of that in his hand. So what is the intercession and all that doesn't actually exist. It's just something that God is allowing it, but I don't even think at this point we should be discussing about it.
You know, as I said, things that affect you personally, that's what we have to do, okay? I mean, you know, it's something that, you know, in my case, as I said, my policy is, according to what God is telling us, okay, that we have to trust God, okay, no matter what. And that's the thing that actually going to take us to the place that we would be actually close to Him, and that's for eternity, and that's called paradise. Okay, that you are going to be there with God for eternity, and that's the beauty of paradise, and that's the enjoyment of paradise, and so that's what we have to do. But you know, we have to learn, and we have to grow our souls to a position and to extend that we have no doubt about our level of trust in God, okay? And we have to make sure that we understand it. Once we do that, then the rest of the stuff, it really doesn't matter. It's not. As I said, you know, God does a lot. Yeah, He does. You know, as I said, He tolerated the situation with what's his name, with Abraham, okay? You know, forgive my father and this and the others, okay? And but you know, anyway, so He said it was the wrong thing for him to do, okay? But you know, all of those things God forgives, and God overlooks many, and so, but you know, that just, you know, we just what Mahmoud read at the beginning, and we read, okay, that's all just good news, one after another. Okay, if you don't do this, you can repent, okay, and that's it, and God forgives it. So it's just full of good news. Let's put it that way.
Yes, I agree with that. Can I ask a question on this mathematics that
yeah.
the Jumma?
By all means, yes.
So I actually this is what you say. I wish you said at the end. I wish you can understand what I'm trying to say. What is in my mind that can actually convey to you to appreciate this in a deeper way. And another thing you also said is that you said that somehow, I'm trying to tell you stuff since 2007, somehow it has not been understood. So I wasn't doing a good job. So basically what you're telling is wrong, because you are doing an excellent job. It's true when you say that what you see of the miracle of mathematics, I don't see it as well as you do. You see it much better than I do, but it doesn't mean that I don't see it. I do. But I don't see it as you see it, because you're far beyond, you know, knowing it and understanding it than I am. So basically, I think a lot of us do understand it, and a lot of us appreciate it a great deal, and you know that.
Yeah. I mean, I as I said, so, you know, I was, you know, I thought, you know, that my pedagogy was not, you know, souped up. Let's put it that way, and I could not get my thoughts across to tell you that this is not counting things in a book. Okay, that kind of technology exists. You can put this thing into some kind of Excel file and count all of these things. Okay, as a matter of fact, I have one of these that I think that Sarah has produced for me. So you can just count all of the aleph and all of the lams and memes and ha, meme and all kinds of stuff. You can just count it. Just push a button and it gives you all the counts. You don't have to write a program. Okay, this is not 50-some years ago. At that time, people had to write programs to do these things. It was very difficult to do. It was a big chore. It's not like that anymore. Okay, so it's very simple. So those are not the type of things that we should gravitate towards. okay? And, you know,
Exactly.
get something to be divisible by 19 or something like that. That wasn't the case, okay? My point was that I noticed this a long time ago. My question was, why is it 19 times 521? Why is it not 19 times 455? It would be still divisible by 19. But then I noticed that, oh my God, 521 is also a prime number. Okay? So it sort of started with these kind of questions that I asked. And the question wasn't malicious. They were just curiosity. Okay? And I was curious. Why? I was really sincerely wanted to know. And so God recognizes that. And then he gives you the tools through which you can actually understand it better and better. Okay? So that's why we see these things. Like, for example, okay, this thing that I have at the very beginning of this sheet that I have. In fact, I was going to put it on the... Okay. See this one here? Chapter 67, 1967, 30. Chapter 67 has 30 verses. 19 times 67 is 1273, which is the number of word God from 1 month to 9127. 19 times 30 is equal to 570, is the number of frequency of Aleph Lam Mim in chapter 32. 570 Gaussian prime is 9127. The 30th prime number is 113. 19 times 113 is 2147, the frequency of Hamim in 40 to 46. There we go. Did we count something in there? No, we didn't.
No.
These numbers generated what's in the Quran. You cannot burn this. You cannot destroy it. Okay? This is part of the fabric of the universe that God has created, and the rest of his creation that we cannot see. This is part of that fabric. That's what's important. That's what I was saying today, that I want people to appreciate it and realize this. And then I'll be a happier guy. Okay?
And I'm telling you that many of us are recognizing it. And so you can be happy about it.
Yeah.
We cannot be like you. You see, you can see for yourself when you're talking, you can see how God planned everything. Planned it all for you. Planned it for us as well, but he planned it that way for you because you were deserving of it. And that was exactly how it is.
Well, I mean, you know, as I said, all of this stuff is starting with a question which is not a mean question, which is not a question to try to trip somebody or make fun of something, or try to find mistakes in something. That wasn't the question. Okay? The question was a sincere question, why this number? Okay? Like, for example, this 113, you just saw this 113. This, when Rashad counted this, the count was 19 times 113. But 113 is a prime number. Happens to be the 30th prime number. And there's 30 right here, which is the 90th composite. Okay? So, you know, all of these things exist, and they all actually generate the Quran. We have no other option. This is what God has designed. As I said, this book cannot be destroyed. It cannot be thrown behind your back. You cannot disobey God's instructions and his commandments in this book, all the do's and the don'ts. You cannot do that. You have to follow it. Otherwise, you are going to be dealing with this. And these numbers are there all the time. All the time. They are not a radioactive material that decays. It actually runs those two. Okay? It tells you how actually particles, they interact with one another. He tells you all of those stories through these numbers. How God has numbered these things. Okay? He gives us these things, and as I said, none of these things are based on mathematical equations. So he gives us a preview of what's available beyond this universe. That's not based on the equilibrium that God has inspired. The equilibrium was inspired because of us, okay, for several reasons. one of the reasons for us to exist in this situation in this way. And the other way is to test us. And we miss that equilibrium and we destroy it. We want always more for ourselves. You know, it's a zero-sum game thing for a lot of people. That you give me all of your stuff and you have zero. Okay? So that's the key here is that God wants to test us, and not for Him to show the result of that test and the process of the test to the rest of His creation, which we really have no idea how big it is. I mean, I showed you that number, okay? That number is mind-boggling. If we go down there, the number I showed last week, okay, there it is. It has 895,932 digits. Okay, can you imagine that? The 36th Mersenne prime has that many digits. The number which is the exponent of that is 2,976,221. That means you have to multiply 2 by itself that many times, almost 3 million times, in order to get this big number, this long number, which has 895, almost 900,000 digits. Okay? So God says, when He says in chapter 72, ayah 28, that He has assigned a number to everything. Can you imagine the extent of His creation?
No.
That this number somehow is assigned to one thing, and I don't know what it is in His creation. Only He knows. Okay? And again, as I said this so many times, this shows His ultimate care, love, and respect for His creation. That number is assigned to that entity and to no one else. Think about it, no one else. It's like you are getting a model which is specifically made for you and nobody else has it. That's how we are. Okay? It is amazing. It's absolutely amazing. The love that He has for us is beyond imagination.
All of it is so true, Dr. Fazely. I also want you remind us all the time that only the sincere are the ones whose choices will be accepted by God.
Yeah.
So if you did things out of curiosity, He knows that you actually want to use your wisdom for the right reason.
Exactly. That's right.
So He gives you the knowledge, but He tempers it with wisdom, so that you can do all of this, understand better, and move on forward. So, and every single person is going to do the same thing. It's not that He's doing it for Moses or you, but He's doing it to all of us. So, depends on us how we succeed or we don't.
Very good, very good.
Thank you.
Anything else? Anything else?
Assalamu alaikum, Dr. Fazely.
Wa alaikum salam. Yes?
It's Junaid. While you have your file open, I was wondering if I could ask for clarification on something that you said last week. And it was actually 7019. You said it was the numerical value of verse 9127. Is that correct?
7790?
No, 7019.
No, 7019. Yes, 7019 is the numerical value of 9127.
Yeah, I was wondering if you could clarify that further, because whenever we've spoken about numerical value, it's always to do with letters.
Yes.
And then we find the numerical value of each letter that is used. So when we say that 7019 is the numerical value of verse 9127, are we counting the numerical value of every single letter in that verse?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
Okay, sure. Okay, anything else?
Assalamu alaikum. Before we close tonight,
Yes.
on 17, 45 and 39:45, the relationship, one is when God alone is mentioned, the hearts of those who do not believe the hereafter. And 17:45 is when you recite the Quran. We place a barrier between you and those who do not believe the hereafter. It's easy to remember, two numbers. One is objecting to Quran alone, and one is objecting to God alone.
17:45, you said?
17:45.
45, okay. Yes, and when you recite the Quran, we place between you and those who do not believe in the hereafter an impregnable barrier. Yes. Yep.
Believe in the hereafter.
So
believe in the hereafter is very important.
Of course, yeah. I mean, of course, that's something that that one has to believe that's the case, and the world is not so badly designed. Let's put it that way, okay? Those people who believe that this is it, and you go and it's an infinitely long black velvet, as Churchill believed. Okay, that's what death was, and so. But this is something that God is telling us, and people who, as I said again, take God's word, and we have no other option. With these mathematics, we really have no other option. Okay, this is beyond just having faith. This is you see it with your eyes, and you verify it every day. This can be verified every day. There's no place for it. There's no time. You can do it all the time. And this is the power of this mathematics and the power of this sign that God has sent to us. And we should cherish it and be grateful to it. Okay, so let's finish for tonight, okay, and we'll again get together inshallah next week for Jum'ah, and so let's do the Al-Fatiha.